Hey, in this video we're going to go over how to make a Appsync app with the SAM framework, and we're going to use this repository to sort of help guide us through this project. So this is the end result, and I'll give a link in the description below so you can see it. But before we get into coding, let's just take a look at high level what an Appsync app is. So it involves a few different AWS resources. First of all, you have a GraphQL API, so we're going to make this with CloudFormation this first resource. And this sort of defines the whole app. And then you basically apply different resources and assign it to that app. So for example, you're going to make a GraphQL schema resource and assign it to this GraphQL API. We're going to make a GraphQL API key and assign it. And so you could think of these white boxes here, both of these things as like config. But then we have resolver resources and data source resources. So if you've made a GraphQL backend before, you're probably familiar with this idea that you make a schema and then you have resolver functions that resolve whatever query or mutation you defined in your schema. So it's a similar sort of concept, but rather than doing that in code, you're defining a resolver resource in AWS, and you're going to define a data source for it to operate against. So that could be DynamoDB, it could be a Lambda function, it could be lots of things. So really, when you think about the resources we're going to be creating, we'll likely have single versions of a schema and API key because that's more config, but then we'll likely have lots of resolvers because we have lots of queries and mutations. So in particular, what we're going to have is a DynamoDB table as our thing that we're operating against. And for example, if we had a note query, we'll sort of map that to a get operation against this data source, the DynamoDB table. Notes, we'd have a scan operation. Mutation create, we'd have a put operation. So you could theoretically have as many data sources as you have resolvers, but that's probably not the case. You'll probably have like one or two. In our case, we just have one single DynamoDB table, and we're going to define many resolvers to operate against a single thing. So at a high level, that's kind of the different resources we're going to be creating with the SAM framework and with CloudFormation. So let's take a look at the code.